Hello, hello.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Selamat pagi. Pagi. Buat teman-teman, for the audience who are still out in the field, we're starting the program now. So please enter the arc and you can take your seats comfortably in the front rows first. All right? How's everyone doing today?
Good
Great?
sleep? We're
Good
so
sleep?
lucky with this beautiful Ubud weather.
I know, right? We're so blessed with this weather. Did you go out and party? Because I heard a lot of sound from my room last night. I never knew that we have these young bloods in the audience partying up till very late last night, yes? All right. So again, ladies and gentlemen, honorable invitees, distinguished guests, members and committee of V20, Friends of Media, participants who are with us in Bali and also joining us still from all over the world, welcome to the second day of V20 Summit 2022 Values at the Center.
Live from this majestic place, Green School, Bali.
Woo-woo. I am Melissa Karim.
And I am Kinan Pierce, your host for today, and a very, very warm welcome to each and every one of you for being here with us today, and also to those who are joining us virtually around the world.
We're still excited, of course, because for the second day, we have more intriguing programs, discussions, and talks in the V20 Summit where values are being celebrated, values at the center. Before we proceed to the first agenda of today, we would like to have a recap and highlights for the first day, right?
Yes, we already had the morning session where the excited workshop has guided us through our arrival at V20 2022. Some of them are the tension release exercise, Art for Life Sustainability Compass, and many more.
And then we jump into the opening ceremony of the V20 2022 Summit. That was cool performance from Cool Dance. Cool.
Cool.
Yes,
it's really cool.
And Joget Dance from Green School as well. And then we also enjoyed the panel sessions of Value Steering Committee, Nature Talk, and Nature Task Force panel discussion.
Yes, that's pretty much the recap of yesterday. As I said, we said on the closing summary, yesterday was a celebration of love. And I think today, to have the second day to celebrate more love, it's going to be another amazing day coming ahead of us.
Yes, indeed. Before we begin, we would like to thank our partners who have supported our journey to the summit. And they are our Gotong Royong partners first,
which is Indica Energy, Bank Mandiri, Mind ID,
Paragon Technology and Innovation, Al Turki Holdings, Bank Rakyat Indonesia,
Forum Human Capital Indonesia, Kalbe Pharma, Hydro Coco, Fitbar, Saka Pharma, Klik Dokter,
Patra Jasa, BP Jam Sostek, Taspen, Ganara Art, Garuda Indonesia,
dan Kementerian Pendidikan Riset, Kebudayaan dan Teknologi, Alam Suta Realty, Kereta Api Indonesia, dan juga Kala Group.
Our organizing partners, Daya 5, Daya Dimensi Indonesia, Bapanas, Stoic Trisula, and Pantare Communications.
And our community partners, Pemimpin.id, Lead the Fest 2022, Ecosystem, Jumbo, dan Saya Perempuan Anti Korupsi.
And last but not least, Arawat Group, Evolutionary Futures Lab, the Leadership Tree, Axia Origin as our knowledge partners. Can we give them a round of applause for supporting our journey to be at the summit? Thank you for your generosity and time and participation. You too,
Yes,
right?
thank you for making this happen.
You
Indeed.
making it happen.
Small part of it, but yeah.
All right. Now, before we start with the first agenda of the day, let's have a little warm up.
Yeah.
Shall we?
Let's go.
Shall we have a little fun this morning?
Yang masih
Yeah,
kaku-kaku,
I like that
baru bangun.
spirit. Okay, because you may had your coffee or maybe had your breakfast. I don't want you to get sleepy. I want you to be fresh for the first session. So everybody on your feet again. Let's stand up. Okay. I'm sure this dance is a global dance. Do you know that this is a global
This
dance?
will be my first time actually.
Really?
Yeah.
The Gen Z.
Yeah, you have to
The
show
Gen
me.
Z, the Gen Z's first time doing this dance. For my generation,
Your generation, yeah.
we know this dance from films. Okay, this is way famous long before Macarena was invented, right?
Okay.
Do you know the chicken dance? Yes, Pak Budi langsung tahu. See, my generation tahu, alright? My people know, okay? Right, so can we play the music? You must know when you hear the music. Kinan just lost his cool. Oke, stop dulu. Oke, stop dulu. Did you guys get it? Everybody get it? Everyone is a pro. Bapak bisa, Pak? Bagaimana kalau Bapak dan Ibu maju ke depan bersama dengan kami? Because I see you. Yuk, Pak. Oke, Ibu deh. Ibu mau jagain Bapak katanya. Pak Budi kalau gitu.
Pak Budi, I was watching Pak Budi tadi.
Pak Budi.
I was learning from him.
And Dr. Karina Jo dong. Millennials harus dicoba juga. Kinan bilang dia belum pernah tahu chicken dance all his life until today.
I know.
Bapak umurnya 93 tahun, Pak. Ih, luar biasa banget, Bapak. Tapi Bapak pasti masih muda, you are young at heart, ya kan? Makanya masih hadir di V20 Summit. Tepuk Bapak namanya siapa, Pak?
Ya Suharja, ayahnya Diwai.
Oh, papanya Budi, why? Oh my God, supporting the daughter, keren banget. Bapak sehat-sehat ya, Pak. Terima kasih ya, Pak, udah hadir hari ini ya, Pak. Tuhan berkati Bapak. Oh my God, 93 years old, how is that? Keren banget deh. Pantesan anaknya keren. Orang tuanya keren soalnya. Oke. Baik, ready? Para model, para peraga. Di tengah dong, di tengah. Dr. Karina.
Here.
Dr. Karina is very smart. She helped invented AstraZeneca vaccine. But can she dance? We're about to find out, ladies and gentlemen. Sayang sama dia. Oke, ready Pak? Oke, music. Pak Budi is a pro, look at him. Prak. Prak. Prak.
Amazing,
lumayan ya, not bad ya, jago ya. Oke, good job.
Wow.
Terima kasih Pak Budi, terima kasih Dr. Karina Jo. Wow, udah keringetan ya? Sweating a little? Yay. Okay, blood circulation going. We're ready.
Yeah,
we're
nice
focusing.
start.
Let's
It's a
start
nice
the
start.
program, right? Okay.
So all right, so let's jump straight away.
Yes.
Let's fill our mind, let's fill our thoughts from the beginning. Let's jump into the fourth session of this summit, Economy Task Force, inspiring talk and panel discussion.
Achieving the high economic growth can be done by merely thinking about financial return. There must be a balance between economic growth, environmental care, and human well-being.
So that we propose the value-centric investment mechanism to enable the exploration of new business model with the goal to sustain global natural resources and future transformation with pride and prosperity.
So without further ado, let's start the Economy Inspiring Talk. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bapak Rudolf Lomeyer, V20 co-founder, partner at Kearney, as our facilitator who will join us virtually from United Arab Emirates. And Rudolf Lomeyer is a V20 co-founder, partner at Kearney, UAE, and head of our National Transformations Institute. Rudolph's career has centered on the intersection between the private and public sectors, understanding the relationship between the power of market forces, the requirements of effective governance, and the transformative potential of technology.
And he previously served in a non-political role as the senior advisor for long-term strategic planning at the US Department of State, in addition to his work in investment banking, technology, and consulting.
And also a warm welcome our inspiring speakers to the stage, Bapak Willy Sayalan, HR Director Unilever Indonesia, and Bapak Ahmad Saiful, VP Corporate Audit, Risk Management and Business Transformation PT Paragon Technology Innovation Indonesia, who is joining us virtually. Okay.
So, are you guys ready? This is the Economy Task Force Inspiring Talk. Enjoy.
Thank you very much, everyone. May I first ask if you're able to hear me well?
Yes, Rudolph, very clearly.
Thank you so much, dear sir. Well, let me first of all say good morning to you all.
Impact of our products. We have ambitious plans to grow our business, but growth at any cost is not an option. We want to work to help consumers enjoy our products and cut the environmental impact at the same time.
Tahun Paragon hadir dengan semangat dan berkomitmen untuk terus berinovasi, menghasilkan produk-produk berkualitas kebanggaan anak bangsa. Hal ini untuk menjawab peluang dan tantangan dengan kerja keras, sinergi, dan kolaborasi. Hingga saat ini, Paragon telah diakui sebagai perusahaan manufacturing kosmetik terbesar di Indonesia dengan berbagai produk unggulan yang berhasil menguasai pasar Indonesia. Perjuangan telah dimulai dan akan terus dilanjutkan. Tetap semangat untuk tumbuh dan banggakan Indonesia dengan inovasi dan kualitas kita. 34 tahun Paragon, inovasi untuk negeri.
This morning, I'd like to thank the Indonesian government for its remarkable leadership of the G20 this year. I've had the privilege of work with the G20 in multiple occasions, and I can tell you that the more challenging the circumstances in the world, the harder is the work of the G20 presidency and the more important. And so on behalf of literally everyone, I just want to give my sincere thanks for the remarkable job that you're doing. Also to the V20 organizers, the V20 Summit organizers, my dear friends, it has been a brilliant session so far. I've been enjoying it virtually. I wish I could be with you in person. It is truly a privilege. I also would like to ask everyone to give a quick round of applause to Melissa and Keenan, because I must tell you, the positive energy coming through my screen has been so gratefully appreciated. So thank you so much for that. If I may, just very, very briefly, before I pass to these remarkable speakers that we have, a lot of what I do in my job is to follow the global economy. And there is no doubt that we are at the precipice of what promises to be a very, very challenging year to 2-year period in the global economy. We're facing unprecedented inflation, and the prospect, however, that even as inflation rises inexorably, it seems, we're also facing significant challenges of growth. And values in that context are so extremely important. Why? Because inflation, as we all know, is called the cruelest tax because it affects those who are least able to handle it most, of course, because a bottle of yogurt costs the same whether you're wealthy or not, and if it goes up by 10%, as it has happened, much more than that in much of the world, of course, it doesn't care how much money you make. So families and individuals around the world are really struggling, and they're facing a very tough year. And in that context, then, understanding our approach to economic policy from the perspective of values, of course, which is so crucial to what the V20 is all about, is so important. But in this inspiring talk, we have two panelists with deep experience in making values real in the economic choices of business. And if I may now introduce Willy Saleh, who is the HR Director at Unilever Indonesia. I know you all know this, but as a consultant, we have a special lens on some things. Unilever is truly one of the most impressive corporations in the world. In fact, a famous academic wrote a paper about shared value. In fact, many of the concepts of shared value were originated at Unilever. And so we're very privileged to have Willy with us. He joined Unilever Division in 1995. He's held a remarkable range of positions. And so with no further ado, Willy, I pass it to you, please.
Thank you very much, Narudov. So it's a pleasure. Good morning, all of distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's really an honor to be here amongst all of you, and especially in this really majestic place which really represents the sustainable living we want to live in. I have been following Ibuku Bali Instagram for such a long time, and when I heard this opportunity to come here, I said I really have to come here offline and see and really feel how sustainable is really at the heart of whatever we're doing. So I'm representing Unilever Indonesia and Unilever in overall in how we see and implement the value in purpose in the economy, in the brands which we are having. So putting values and purpose is not just nice to have, but there is very good business and economic reason why we're doing that. So for those, so also thank you very much for giving an information how Unilever has been working on values. So on the left-hand side, as you can see, these are what we call Compass strategy. So Compass strategy is our current Unilever strategy. Three component big parts of that one. We have a purpose which we say brands with purpose will grow. Companies with purpose will last, and people with purpose will thrive. What's interesting for me as someone from HR, people at the heart of company is being called out, and purpose, which is really meaningful for us to have. And we really say that, and we witness that companies with purpose has higher market share and grow faster than the other competitors. Some examples of what we are doing in each of the brands. Rinso has an initiative to recycle our plastics. Kecap Bango, our sweet soy sauce, is enhancing the livelihoods of Indonesian farmers to reduce the imports, and actually 100% of the soy which is being used is not imported but grown locally in Indonesia. And also we also empower ladies at the at school. Here's a snippet of our corporate strategy, which we call Sustainable Living Plan. And we really think that we grow with our brands, we grow with our people, and we grow because we have a purpose to serve as a big company. I won't go into detail, but what it says that in the first column is that we want to make action on climate. We improve on the climate to reduce our emissions, to protect and regenerate the nature through deforestation. As you know, Unilever is the biggest users of palm oil, and we only purchase from this sustainable palm agriculture, and therefore it really enforced the industry to live and sell only sustainable products. We also work on waste-free world to reduce the use of plastics. We committed that by 2025, Unilever Indonesia, 100% of all the plastic we use, we will recoup and recycle. And that is a lot of plastics which we are producing. We also want to improve people's health, confidence, and well-being, and contribute to a fairer, more inclusive world, in particular with regards to raising the living standards, equity, diversity, and inclusions. So I will share an example further of how our brands will have to live these values on being inclusive, on being proponents towards inclusivity, but also in raising the living standards. we have what we call the unstereotype initiative with our brands. Unstereotype is initiative within Unilever, which we will want all our advertisement to move away from the stereotypical which we see in the advertisement. And if you see, and if you live in the world we live in, exposed to all social media, I recall in the 80s, in the 90s, I recall vividly all advertisement related to cars, motorcycles, or motor oils. There's always female person in the picture, which does not have anything to do with cars, with oils. Remember ya, ada satu merek oil yang selalu portray in TV. This is the best oil for your car. Nice looking female, not a mechanic, not that say female cannot do engineering, but clearly it's not portrayed being someone who's a mechanic. So we want to move away from that stereotypical, and oftentimes than not, this stereotypicality is not caused by purpose, but because of what we call unconscious bias, which we have in the people who manage the brand and produce the brand. And therefore, we have training to all our employees to understand and remove that what we call unconscious bias. As a matter of fact, in HR, we're being trained, and all the board members, whenever we make a decisions with regards to brand, campaign, or Unilever HR policies, to say, are we being inclusive to the non-represented group of people in the company or in the consumers? When I produce an HR policy, I need to step back and say, have I thought about the people who's not majority, who's not Muslim, who's not male, who has disabilities? Have I thought about that one? So in that sense, we were trained to step back and rethink and ensure that we don't have bias when we produce it. So the stereotypical in our brand is not necessarily caused by purpose, but because of the unconscious bias which we have. So in 2020, we launched what we called Act 2 Unstereotype Initiative, which is our journey to become really a beacon of diversity and inclusion. As you will remember previously in this chart, one of the sustainable living plan which we have is to be a beacon of diversity and equity and inclusion. So my example is actually linking to that strategy of Unilever. The reason why we're integrating diversity and inclusion at every stage is about the notions that it's not only good for the society, what society needs, but there's also a business case around that one. There's a business case why we need to be more inclusive in our dealing, in our representing of the brand itself. And we want our brand certainly to stand out in the culture which we live in. Google 3 days ago about how our advertisement have unconsciously be unstereotypical. So in the early 90s, this is an advert which shows anti-women's voting. So apparently in the past, women was not allowed to vote. So this is cases from the US. So in the early 90s, women were not allowed to vote. And there was a campaign for anti-women's voting, the early 90s. Again, come to 1940s, 1950s, there's more adverts propagating about certain body standards. And it has started from the early 40s. And we're still seeing up until today. What are the marketing ideal of body standards? If you Google, there's even an AI which determines the definition of beauty, right? There's an apps in which it measures the gap between your eyes, your nose, your cheekbones, and then if you put a template, then you fit into definitions, how far are you from the definition of beauty. That still exists even today. It exists today. And it has started since 1940s in the advertisements. And we see in the US in the 1950s, 1960s, how wives is the one who works in the house. Even if I look into more detail into advertisement in the 60s and the 50s, it's black female who works in the kitchen. There's an advert which shows white boys and girls who says, we're going to have friends coming to our house. We're going to have a party. And the black female lady who works in the kitchen, oh yeah, okay, Dinah will prepare the food. Not mom. Not mom who prepares the food, but someone who's black who prepares the foods in the kitchen. Because that is the stereotypical of the society at that time. And unconsciously has been translated into the advertisement as well. Now, recently, we're seeing more and more over-sexualizing women to sell our products. Have started in the 2000s. I mentioned about the adverts of cars, etc. It's not as straightforward or as explicit like you have here in the US, but in Indonesia as well, we have seen the use of non-related gender or non-related race into certain products which we advertise. Yeah. Currently, we are in the midst of global awakening with how social and racial injustice have been really pervasive and apparent. In the US in particular, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Don't Matter, all lives matter. Not just like black which matters, but all lives matters. Also, the inequalities with the recent pandemic which we see. A study in UK shows that if you're black or Bangladeshi, Pakistan, Asian, you're most likely to have more than 2 times death rates compared to the white male. And just only recent studies. And I'm sure this is not by purpose. I'm sure this is not by purpose, by design of the government. Fact of the matter, it happened. And I think it's a global awakening, and our consumers are more and more asking that our brand stands for this racial injustice, racial discriminations, and to have more equal rights. 74% of the consumers globally says that our brands need to take stance against this. If you're in the US, there's a famous quarterback who said during a US national anthem as a protest for the black and racial injustice by the police, by the government, by the society. Colin is a quarterback, he's a vegan, and Ben & Jerry as a brand wants to stand up to that social injustice and support Colin. He's been sacked from the NFL up until now. He's not playing, quarterback for San Francisco 49ers. Been sacked, not playing, not by, so unless, I'm not going to go further because I'm going to be rather political, so that's not right in this forum. So Colin is a vegan, and Ben & Jerry says, I want to support Colin, and I will make the one of the SKU of Ben & Jerry to be showing Colin, and produce entirely vegan ice cream. Now, ice cream is not known to be coming from dairy vegan products. Vegan ice cream, and all the proceeds of Kaepernick's portions will go to Know Your Rights Camp, which is an organization which he founded to empower black and brown youth in the US. And that's just an example how brands can really actually take a stand. And it's not an easy thing because Ben & Jerry, for those who knows and born and raised in the US, has been in all sorts of difficulties, involved in things like, very political, which is when it comes to value, then you say which value? It's my value or your value, right? And certainly we're speaking about universally aligned values. But that's an example of our brand standing for our value. I'm going to share an advert which we do. This is showing that female can do many things as per aspirations. Female is not, can be and should be empowered.
Beranikan diri untuk meraih mimpi bersama Sunsilk dan Skill Academy. Dan jadilah tak terhentikan untuk berkilau.
So this is an ad which is showing that women can be professional, can be independent, can be strong, and showing women to be leaders and successful on top of the organization as well. Now, in Unilever, this value has really been translated into actions and policies. In Unilever, we have 50% of board members female, 50% male. In Indonesia, in the context where manager upward female ratio is 14%, 50% has been really appreciated. All senior leaders means the board one down, there's 50 of us, also 50% female, 50% male. So it's not only wanting to show this in our brands, but also really doing it in our company structure. Second advert, which shows physical ability to invite everyone to move more regardless of their physical limitations, if any.
Bilang gak usah diharapin, udah pasti kalah.
Ngapain sih cewek ikutan taekwondo?
Gerak aja susah, apalagi main basket. Gak usah aneh-aneh deh.
Mungkin emang benar, mungkin ini waktunya berhenti. Waktunya sadar diri, karena kita nggak akan bisa lepas dari segala keraguan.
Tapi kita selalu punya pilihan untuk lampaui suara-suara itu, lampaui keraguan, dan buktikan kita bisa lampaui batas.
Siapapun kamu, apapun keraguanmu,
anyone should be unlimited by their physical limitations. So that's what the advert says. This is advert about you should be skin cleansing products should not be portraying everyone should be white and fairer. Any skin color should be appreciated.
Baru, Pond's White Beauty dengan Smart Tone Technology. Pelembab yang dapat menyesuaikan dengan warna kulitmu.
In the past, even Pond's were called fair and lovely because we encourage women to be fairer. Now it's being changed into glow and lovely. All skin tones should be appreciated. Due to the time, I will skip this ad. I'm going to the economy side of this, which says that the advert that shows free from stereotypes, depicting people with progressive and forward-looking really outperform consumers and reasons to purchase. And this strategy has been proven to increase brand power, increase sustainable living purpose, and also brand impact and purchase intent. Again, the economic reasoning why we're doing this, brand who is showing unstereotyping has increased 13% on drive of intent for the consumers, increased sustainable living purpose endorsement, 34% more credible, and have 74% better brand power than those who's not showing the being inclusive. Last slide from us is that our commitment in Unilever as our brands that 100% of our advertising need to be unstereotypical. 100% to increase Unilever advert portraying people from diverse groups, different colors, different race, different religions, different orientations of political will, etc. By 2025, all advert must show that one. And all brands have what we call unstereotype charter. So to ensure we're not trapped into unstereotypical. We have banned 100% on any digital alterations in print, in media, and also in TV, 100% banned. So if you see Unilever adverts, we are moving away from the perfect typifications of any male or female. And all ad production, even in the production of ad, we mandate that triple bids will have at least one bid from a diverse group. So if the two advertising agents coming from the similar group of people, we must make sure the third would represent the underrepresented marketing point of view. So that's I can share from Unilever point of view, and looking forward to have a discussion and dialogue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Willie. We're now very pleased to welcome our next inspiring speaker, Ahmed Seyful, who is the Vice President, currently serving as Vice President of Corporate Audit, Risk Management, and Business Transformation at Paragram Corp. He's a professional with 20 years span of experience locally and globally across finance, marketing, and supply chain, and a whole host of other activities. He's also an adjunct lecturer at the Faculty of Economics and Business, UNPAD, at FUDIS. And I want to say that the role in audit that you have, sir, is, as a consultant, I have close visibility. In many ways, that's where values are made real. Because an audit function that's built on values, that's what causes the action to really change. So we're very grateful to have you. Please, the floor is yours.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Rudolph. I hope everyone can hear my voice clearly. Yeah, I will proceed. First and foremost, it's such a pleasure and honor to be in the forum with the honorable guest and distinguished speaker, as well as having Pak Willy at the same forum. Second, apologies, I cannot physically attending the event. 4 days ago, I was tested positive COVID, so I need to sit tight for the next 6 days. Okay, I'm sure the committee will help me to project the slide, please. Okay, thank you very much. A brief about Paragon. We are one of the largest, if not the largest, cosmetic company in Indonesia. Some of our products is Makeover, Calf, Putri, Labore, Biodev, and obviously the biggest one is Wardah. Today I will talk about the values-based organization, ideas, intent, implementation, and impact, and I try to do as much as possible within the window that I've been given, of course. Next slide, please. I would like to start with a starting premise that our founder has established this business since 1985. It's been 37 years, actually. The thinking that what makes a great and sustainable business for us is obviously the first one is purpose, deeply rooted belief, true motivation, and genuine intention. The second one, the process itself, the end-to-end business operation, ways of working, optimal use of technology, and the people. Organization design, leadership, corporate culture, which in the end will produce business performance. In our language in Paragon, we call it kebermanfaatan, giving impacts. Now, there is a green box there. Our founder, Bu Nur Hayati Subakat, in many events, if not all events, if she being asked what is the recipe of her success, her first answer will almost immediately pertolongan Tuhan, which means power of God, help of God. This is the starting premise how Paragon built the values. Next slide, please. This is how we live the values from inward perspective, inward looking. The building picture that you are seeing, it's actually a combination of purpose, values, and 7 basic identity. So it is more than beautiful words or having copywriter to write these kind of things. What is very important is how an organization can find, can immerse, can self-invent this and magnify it to become the values. And the most important thing is the full alignment between what we believe, what we think, what we say, and what we really do. I give you an example. One of the values in Paragon is grit. In 1990, 5 years after the company established, everything was burnt down, everything caught fire, and it's back to square one. That's when our founder decided to rebuild everything from scratch. That's one example. Second example is one of the 7 basic identity of Paragon is pembelajar, learner. We have a coaching community which we are not being only coach, but everyone is being prepared to be a coach for the team. And it is a lot of investment in Paragon building that kind of capabilities. The interview of new joiners, of management trainees, the founder still involved. Every 2 Saturday in a month, there is interview involving the founder. The corporate culture, induction, and everything is also inventing from the founder and the executive committee. Sorry, can I have the slide back, please? Okay, yes, thank you very much. That's the inward looking. The outward looking, I give you an illustration. One of the important decisions that Paragon took during the pandemic is maintain all these support, which is unconditional. We have 4 pillars: health, education, women empowerment, and environment. This support, most of them is not tied up to the brand. We have brand activities, of course, but this is because Paragon would like to do what is important for the society. And it's that kind of altruism is very different. And for me, it's a kind of different and very unique mindset in running the business. And the business itself has been proven very well performed in the past couple of years until today. We are the market leader in the cosmetic category. Next slide, please. Now, one of the important things transitioning from a family business to a much bigger and professional business is transforming while performing. The objective always laid down to the Paragon purpose, values, 7 basic identity, which we have seen how we crafted the starting premise. Our first value is actually faith in God, and that's really drive what we do in the business. The transformation itself, consumer experience, customer experience, internal process, and having a final vision, which I think is not a destination, a journey to become impactful, growing, and sustainable with this kind of value surrounding. The combination of people, process, and technology, and how do we optimize the resource in terms of automation, consolidation, and elimination. The real test for this is not how stringent and how sophisticated technology we are doing, but the spirit behind it. Next slide, please. Now, this is one of the slides that Paragon would like to offer, the paradigm shift. When the organization do the right things, there will be lesser issues left. The business issues, the desynchronize, the challenges to align and everything. What's in it for the organization? What impact the organization can create? From innovation to drive organization performance, to innovation to genuinely solve people's problem. From transformation merely to drive cost reduction, to transformation to drive stronger engagement with all stakeholders. Solely numbers driven and holistically purpose and values driven. Our group CEO said in many occasions, and it is reflected through one of the stories I shared about the commitment to keep the support despite the difficult economic situation, is that the perspective of the paradigm is not that we are not chasing growth to create impacts. We intend to continuously create impacts, and that's exactly why we grow. I would like to leave all of you, and thank you for having me today and Paragon Corp, with a thought. Obviously, if the organization doesn't perform, there is no today. And if the organization doesn't perform, there will be no tomorrow. But needless to say, there must be values to guide our way. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for having me today.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. That was incredibly inspiring. You saw me taking pictures of a couple of your slides. I can't tell you how impressed I am by what your organization is doing. That brings us to the conclusion of this first segment of this session. I want to thank both of our fine speakers for their inspiring presentations. To see what a private corporation can do, putting values in the service of its objectives, creating value through values at the center, has been an inspiration to us all. Please join me in giving them a warm round of applause. And now I believe we will transition to the next part of our segment.
Terima kasih Pak Willy, boleh tetap di tempat dulu, kita foto dulu boleh ya Pak? Pak Willy karena satu-satunya yang hadir, Pak Willy di tengah, nanti akan diabadikan bersama dengan yang hadir secara online. Kami persilakan teman-teman fotografer untuk mengabadikan momen ini. Okay, in the center.
Okay. 1, 2. All right.
Great. Terima kasih
Thank
Bapak
you so
Willy Sailan dari Unilever, kemudian Pak Ahmad. Semoga lekas sehat ya Pak. May you feel better
Terima kasih.
soon.
It's always exciting to see how brand really transform their direction into a value-based direction.
Yes.
And it's really inspiring to see brands as big as Unilever, Paragon, putting that into the core of their foundation.
Investing for the future generations. That's what we should be doing, right?
Yep.
So now after the inspiring talks, we're going to move into the next agenda, which is economy panel discussion with speakers and panelists. Our facilitator is still Mr. Rudolf Lomeyer. Bapak Rudolf tetap bersama kami sebagai fasilitator. Also, please stay online, Pak Rudolf. And now we would like to welcome our speakers for this session. First of all, we have Bapak Profesor Dr. Bambang Shergi Laksmono, MSc, V20 2022 Task Force Co-Lead, Professor at the Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, Universitas of Indonesia, General Chair of the Indonesian Social Worker Consortium Indonesia.
And also I'm inviting Ibu Ikra Shaikh, V20 2022 Task Force Co-Lead, Director, Network for Sustainable Financial Market, who join us virtually from the United States. And Bapak Daniel Quirici, founder of Eco Capital, who join us virtually from the UK.
And here, present with us, we have Ibu Dr. Vivi Yulaswati, MSc, expert staff for the Minister of National Development Planning, Bappenas, Head of Indonesia SDG Secretariat Indonesia.
And Ibu Alexandra Askandar, Chair of Forum Human Capital Indonesia and Deputy CEO Bank Mandiri Indonesia, who join us virtually.
And we also have Bapak Anas Al-Juraifani, Corporate Communications, Sustainability and Strategic Partnership Director at Al Turki Holdings, Saudi Arabia.
So yes, please give a round of applause. So this is the Economy Task Force panel discussion.
Thank you so very much. With your permission, I will begin. By the way, I must say this is a first-time experience for me to moderate a panel virtually with other participants there in person. So I hope it's comfortable for everyone. It's certainly a pleasure and an honor for me. The Economy Task Force of the V20 work this year, as I think everyone knows, economic stability and inclusion is at the very heart of what the G20 is all about. And really, the origins of the G20 really were to help solve a series of global economic and financial challenges. And as we mentioned earlier and we mentioned yesterday, economic policy without values simply cannot move in the direction required to get through the challenge that we're currently facing and the challenges of the longer term. And so we're very privileged to have these three speakers, they're task force leads, who are going to walk us through the work that they've done this year, and then we'll move to our broader panel discussion. And I would just like to say that the values of inclusion, of resilience, are of such profound importance in the economic context that I really look forward to letting each of you walk us through how values you found can be used to inform policy that is transformative. And just for everyone's benefit to remember, policy is about values. The definition of policy is the official guiding principle of either a country or a multilateral organization. It is a thing that sets decision parameters. And so whether consciously or unconsciously, policy is about values. And the work of the V20 is to make it conscious and intentional so that we can build consensus centered on values. With that, I'd like to please pass to Professor Dr. Bambang Shergi, one of the to kick us off. Please, sir.
Yes, thank you, Rudolph. good morning, everyone. Assalamualaikum, Om Swastiastu. Greetings, everyone, and also to my colleagues who's part of my team member, which is Daniel and Ikra Shaikh. Greetings, everyone. Hope everyone is well. We are approaching a topic which is very central. Many would say it was the epicentrum of everything, the economy, because it is the thing that would define livelihood and everything that is the survival of a nation, and how that will relate to the, kind of the global supply chain system and things that then will relate to the situation, the real condition of people living at the grassroots level. So it is important, Rudolph. Of course, we are all very anxious to see how we get through to this quite a difficult topic, quite treacherous actually. So I'm going to try to do my best and deliver what our group has been, really compounding thoughts and sharing and enriching our perspective here and there. Anything to do with forging, sewing, or pushing, and I think really you have to put in front the values of compassion, inclusivity, empowerment, and everything that many of us, of course, are quite familiar with. Now, when we say things like putting value at the center, doesn't mean that the economy so far doesn't have any values. So I think really everyone is for centuries doing economy, trade, production, commodities, and everything, as you all understand, probably will have something to do with layers of motivation, interest, and everything. So we are actually questioning at this point, I mean, we all, I think, what kind of values or any other alternative values that we should put in and to be a new kind of direction and reference. I think that's important for us really to put forward. Now, I think maybe if people would be familiar with 4.0, for example, compassionate capitalism, being more responsible, things that we as corporate, for example, when we see and being part of a society, civic engagement, they are all connected with people actually. So 4.0 represents something which is more, just to quote some more of a, textbook thinking, more of an ecocentrical perspective, not an egocentric perspective. So this would encapsulate, the general thing about how positioning of a company, of big corporation activities in countries, multinationals being existent and present in a country. But I'm only speaking on Indonesian experience, a country which you can find something very micro up to a big, giant plantation or mining companies. The scale of economy really is staggering, really is something connected to really high chain of supply within industries somewhere else, Being a national Indonesian, we might not know really where are the things going. So if I were just to represent, some of the focus that my colleagues in the group went through, these are the list of papers that came in. I just point out a few critical concept or keywords that really become the burning message. I would just point a few, just to make everyone easy to follow. For example, transformation, transition, alignment, catalyst for energy transition, digital changes, sustainable behavior, technological culture, collaborative digital transformation. So I think if everyone just follow quite, briefly, the 2 or 3 things which is, according to our group, would be very, really important, not just to identify and sing out definitive value terms like, for example, sustainability, inclusion, empowerment, but really how to put that into transition, a trajectory of stages. So I think this is really important, I think. So for us, everyone who would be active in advocacy, in making these things true, I guess the word transition stages and alignment among stakeholders would be really very important. It's not just the principles that we put out, but how do we then put that into a process? Mine myself, of course, but really, I think we understand that this is not just only about something that happens in a strategic company room. These are the things that really happen on everyday life situation for our friends, our people at the grassroots, people from the traditional community. We don't say that much about indigenous society here in Indonesia, which is quite a politically different context, but we understand our friends who are still living in a stage where gathering and hunting is an everyday life situation. So if we were to endorse a digital world, for example, there are very limited amount of electricity, unreliable supply of electricity. So these differences between western, central, eastern part of Indonesia, for example, is something that we really understand and try to hear the voices of people who are isolated, who are not into what we think of as an urban, commercialized, well-utilized service cities. So I think these are the things that I think. Now, I wouldn't take that much time, of course. So alignment among stakeholders, transformation stages, consider the diversity of situation and industry situation, livelihood, which is then will have to be fit into the process of digitalization process. So I would invite people to think about and go to the villages as well and be part of that direct person-to-person, group-to-group, family-to-family empowerment, and have that digital literacy being part of that process of really being put in a process of no one left behind. I guess that's my message, and over to you, Rudolph, and of course to our friends. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Bambang. And now, Dr. Daniel Kurichi, sir, we turn to you. Thank you so much. I know you're going to walk us through the paper and this crucial issue of rethinking sustainability via values deliberation. Please, I pass it to you, dear sir. You are on mute, I think. I'm not able to hear you.
Yes, can you hear me, Ma? Very good.
Yes, sir, we hear you well, thanks.
It's a miracle of technology. I'm calling from London. I'm delighted to be able to join you. Thank you for your invitation. It's a great pleasure to address the subject of sustainability, which is the core of life, logic of life. What is sustainability? It's about balancing economic growth, ecosystem care, and social well-being. Social well-being is also about aligning governments, corporates, and ecosystems requirements. And our planet well-being is about allowing new thinking via a values-based language, transcending what I would call our self-destructive label silo mentality. We're back to the psychology that the previous speaker was talking about. Values offer a meta-language to recover stronger and recover together, to echo the Indonesian president's solidarity motto. The Friedman doctrine that shaped our minds over 50 years offers a paradox with both poison and antidote. The poison part is that famous sentence, the only social responsibility of business is to grow profits within rules. The antidote, less known, but still real, defines rules as embodied in ethical custom. Ethics and customs, strangely enough, have the same etymology, value, which is now a I could say Generation Z governance tool. Let's try and see how we can put the antidote to work, and fast. It's unquestionable that left free to shape rules, business corporations have become the most powerful institutions, dictating our ethical customs. But do they take social responsibilities for collateral damage? The question is today, can governments harness corporate power? Governments and corporations can indeed co-create ad hoc coalitions, allowing orderly deliberations about value and values underlying their common mission of service to society and values driving strategies about accessing wellness in the form of health, information, energy, natural resources. By leveraging business influence via deliberations, governments can promote two fundamental outcomes: economic efficacy and social solidarity. Mission statements, values are well established by thousands of peer-reviewed studies, as all you learned people in this room know, as governance tools fostering both sustainable growth and shareholder value. There is no conflict anymore between sustainability and shareholder value. Methodically applied values prove to increase value for all stakeholders by leveraging social solidarity. But the question is, why do so many organizations fail the sustainability test? Usually, they accelerate short-term growth, compromising their service mission and long-term growth. Effective leadership is really about activating a hierarchy of values, not one only, but a set of values in a certain order, and agreed via proper deliberations organized by ad hoc coalitions of government, corporate, and civil society agents. What are our challenges today? Incorporating sustainability into strategy is quoted as a key success factor by 97% of CEOs surveyed in 99 countries on the subject of UN Sustainable Development Goals. That's a study of Pricewaterhouse. But only 29% of CEOs actually have access to management values data. As a consequence, companies underrate mission values, prioritize short-term growth, and simply ignore the ecosystem. This misalignment is at the heart of our systemic crisis of today. Former bank governor Mark Carney notes that nature provides half of the world economy's required resources. But most corporate values leave it out of the equation. Trees, for example, still provide most energy and construction materials for many nations. Trees are subject to increasing scientific research, explaining why they are sustainable life models for human organizations. Size does matter, but growth patterns, too, Steady growth is known to extend life into centuries, but accelerated growth generates life-threatening handicaps. We find that the key to sustainability is homeostasis, that is, keeping an equilibrium in aligning mission of bearing fruit, goal, and strategy in allocating resources, while cooperating with the ecosystem. Collaboration is therefore key for sustainability, as a certain Lord Glasgow, who did existed a few years ago, infamously discovered by trying to explode an old tree stump with dynamite on his estate lawn. Rather than exploding, the stump lifted off a half-acre of intertwined topsoil roots, mashing his castle ceilings in the process. The question is, shall we allow further tree obliteration on our planet, similarly shatter our human organizations? What are the solutions in front of this challenge? Government and business actually need each other to redefine the values underlying social mission and strategic priorities. But the growing power scale of business puts the odds against governments in negotiations. Therefore, we need to formally establish a level field debating process. There are hugely successful deliberation precedents. Take the Paris COP21, for example. Hundreds of corporations rallied into an active parallel dialogue with governments next door to the official UN Compact negotiation venue regarding zero carbon. Corporates took the initiative, leading to an unprecedented carbon tax harmonization across nations, vastly simplifying financial planning for all parties while addressing climate-induced social inequality issues. However, zero carbon plans do require governments to modify their energy strategy too. This circular planning challenge requires a systems approach with a longer term beyond the traditional political timeframes. Another example, right here in front of you in Indonesia, is the palm oil production. It offers a constructive approach in a complex nexus traditionally used in food and cosmetics. About half of all palm oil today consumed in Europe is used as biofuel. Did you know that? As a consequence, Indonesian palm tree culture has grown to cover the equivalent of 2/3 of the UK size, with 45% cultivated by small farmers, obviously enticed to burn virgin forests. Stopping deforestation required a systems approach, involving active cooperation between corporates, users, governments, civil communities, plus banks financing technological innovation. Unilever, I have no connection with Unilever. I'm free to speak about it. Supported by the Rainforest Action Network, a big palm oil user, founded the Round Table on Palm Oil with WWF. Unilever also initiated a meeting of big producers, leading to a moratorium on deforestation. Collaboration with the Tropical Forest Alliance, the Norwegian government, NGOs and industry leaders who promoted new technologies doubling the yield of new palm trees has resulted in actually reversing deforestation. Business for Nature is another example of a formal coalition of over 700 large NGOs and corporates calling governments to reverse ecosystem losses. In most coalitions, business is ahead of government, for example, in promoting zero carbon and phasing out plastic packaging. So in conclusion, what could we, who have been thinking actively over the last year, can we tell governments, what can we recommend? Well, crisis set a challenge for all leaders to think and act as a group. That's a novelty. Values offer a universal language, allowing proper deliberations. As business succeeded by initiating successful dialogues with public authorities, we propose that government take the lead first by institutionalizing deliberations between private and public stakeholders on key matters, climate, energy, supply chain, disinformation. Number two, instigate the emergence of coalitions of scientists, regulators, producers, and consumers. Number three, appoint public and private sector agents to co-lead such coalitions. And finally, undermine disinformation, which is rampant, launched by agents with vested interests. My conclusion is value-based deliberation is a cornerstone of democracy, has been from Greece to Switzerland today, and also a cornerstone of prosperity. Value-based deliberations have come of age as a new system thinking and governance for all leaders. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniel, for that brilliant presentation. Gratefully appreciated. And so much of what you said goes to the heart of what the G20 is all about, of course, which is collaboration, and so much what the V20 is about in using values as a language, as you say so beautifully, as a language of collaboration that is connective. And so we thank you so much for that. I now would like to pass the mic, as it were, to Ikra Sheikh. Ikra is Director of Network for Sustainable Financial Markets Sustainability and a specialist at JP Morgan Chase & Company, a remarkably important global institution. Ikra, we pass it to you now, I believe, on connecting digital economies. Please.
All right, thank you, Rudolph, and thank you everyone for being here. It's a great privilege and pleasure, and really an honor to be amongst you all today. Last year, I had the pleasure of serving as a delegate for the V20, and I'm super excited to be returning as an Economy Task Force co-lead with Dr. Bombang. A huge thank you to everyone who organized, the V20, to all the delegates for their thought-provoking pieces, to my co-authors, Iman and Iki, for all those who are doing the work behind the scenes to make this happen. Truly is a global effort. A special thank you to Jessica and Professor Bombang. Before we begin, I would just like to clarify that the views and opinions expressed are my own. They're not representative of those of my employer, and do not necessarily reflect or represent the views or positions of entities I may represent. They shouldn't be misconstrued as advice or guidance. They're my own personal comments, thoughts, reflections, insights, and opinions. So with all that fun stuff out of the way, let's get right into it. Today, I'm here to speak with you about connecting digital economies and how increasing access, trust, and digital literacy can contribute to a prosperous and an inclusive economy. This piece was put together by myself with Iman Gandiawi and Aristiwadia Brahmantika, who's a senior VP at Go2, and Iman, who works over at the Harvard Kennedy School. She's doing her MPA over there as well, and has done some work with the United Nations. And so this really ties in with the G20's vision of recover stronger and recover together. It really slots into that idea of a digital transformation and why it's important. So today I'll be covering three main topics. So the first is, why is the digital transformation important? What was some of the inspiration behind the piece? What are the key parts of a successful and equitable transition? And why do values matter in creating this, new future together? So I think COVID-19 really highlighted why digitalization is important and why digital transformation is crucial to society, whether wanted or unwanted. During COVID, we saw billions of transactions shift online, disrupted the way people live, the way people do business, and it disrupted communities, it disrupted a lot of people. And so within that, there was also a lot of opportunity that happened. There were a lot of people that innovated, and they were able to do so because of the internet and access to new customers, new markets, new ways of doing business. And research actually shows that broadband access is proven to have positive spillover effects, including positive effects on GDP across developing nations. And these positive impacts could be transformation. These positive impacts of a digital transformation, in my opinion, could be revolutionary. And it's important to note that while there's a digital transformation that's happening, there's also a digital divide that exists within society today. And so on one hand, people are getting more ingrained. On one hand, people also don't have access. ICT, which is information and communication technology infrastructure, has a gap. And this is a known issue, right? It impacts both developed and developing nations, and it really disproportionately impacts rural communities globally. And so when we start to think about a digital transformation, we need to think about digital inclusion and digital access. For example, in the United States, there are 18 million rural citizens that still lack broadband access. And when you're looking at least developed countries in the world, only 19% of those countries have access to the internet. And so you start to see, similar discrepancies with rural and urban communities. And so as we start to think about the future, we need to think about how we can fix that, right? And how can we do that? And so I'm going to shift over into point number 2, which talks about what are the key parts of a digital transformation. So infrastructure, access, right? If people can't access the internet, they can't access that digital transformation and partake in the positive effects of GDP.
Recording in progress.
We're also looking at, cultural context, right? So is a digital transformation culturally relevant to that society? We're looking at things like education. Are people able to access it? Do they know skills? Are these skills employable? That's another important aspect. And then how can we start to innovate on businesses? So these are all key elements as we start to think about a digital transformation, a digital economy, and why are values important to that, right? So values are about bringing, the crucial values to a digital transformation are really about 3 things, right? Access, inclusion, and digital literacy, right? So like we mentioned, ICT infrastructure is lacking. We need access. It's a wide-scale problem, and part of that has to do with the costs of actually, getting internet to these communities. What we need to start doing is maybe start looking at cost estimation models. There's a case study in rural Sarawak in Malaysia. And part of that could also be looking at clever ways of financing with both public and private partnerships to reduce costs and increase access. As we start to think about inclusion, you need to think about trust, right? If people don't trust these digital systems, there's large portions of the population who have internet access but choose not to engage. So how can we build a system and an online infrastructure that includes these people? And so one action that we might take is make participatory trust models where people start to create the internet tools and infrastructure and understand it better and have some influence there in hopes that they are more engaged and they start to adopt the technology more. And finally, there's digital literacy, right, which is increasing people's understanding of the internet. One challenge that's expected to happen is that if people aren't aware of it, they might not be able to partake in that economy. So Indonesia by 2030 could lack up to 9 million digital talents for their future economy. And so we really need to start thinking about how are we investing in education to address that skills gap. And then also the spillover effects of that could be increased employability, increased innovation. This could lead to new ways of doing business. And these are all things that would tie well to the future that we want to create. So in this chapter, we have 5 key recommendations. The first is investing in internet access and infrastructure. The second is creating culturally sensitive consumer protections, right? If people don't trust online transactions, they're not going to partake. So if we can start to fix that, we can start to create more opportunities. The third is establishing trusted global participatory models. So really getting people engaged with the internet and trust in it and have an understanding of how things work online and how to protect themselves. Promoting digital literacy and education also ties in over there as well. And of course, the last one is building a resilient economy. As we start to do all these things, the hope is that, micro, small, and small, medium enterprises can start to innovate and really create those positive spillover GDP effects that we hope to see. And so I'll turn it back over to you, Rudolph.
I thank you so much, Ikra, for that fantastic speech. I just want to say, as we transition now to the panel discussion, that was really, really very powerful. What did we hear? In different ways, all of you touched so deeply on the value of inclusion. And you also touched, and Daniel, you in particular, on collaboration and on this idea of institutionalizing deliberations as being so central and as values being the language of that. And then Ikra now, trust, and participatory trust, and access and engagement. All of these things, as you spoke, really conveyed to me the extent to which the world we live in is a function of, we talk, of course, in my business and consulting about value chains, but really the world in which we live is about values chains of values that when they are segmented and divided, when the components of those actors that make up the world are making decisions based on narrow interests and priorities, without consultation, without alignment, and without that shared vision, we get the destruction of the public goods that are so central to our future. And what I've heard you all say in different ways so articulately is that we need to create these integrated values chains. It's a phrase I've never said before. It's actually almost hard because we're unused to it. So thank you for refreshing my mind and hopefully all of ours with those superb speeches. Now, let me just, mindful of time, and we're in good shape. I think we're right on schedule. I now would like to turn to our panelists. And each of you, of course, brings such a remarkable perspective to this. And I think that what's the most important in the context of the topic of economy is, from your perspective, why do values matter? What is the power of values? And in particular, I'd like to ask each of you to give stories from your experience where values have oriented action that you consider positive, where you've seen transformation driven by values in valuable ways. And Dr. Vivi, if I may start with you, please take on any of those questions, but the overarching question is really singular, and that is, why do values matter and how have you seen them manifest themselves? Please.
Thank you very much, Rudolph, for the opportunity, and thank you also for inviting me. It's really wonderful to be in this very beautiful place and also with the gorgeous people here. You should envy to all of us here, Rudolph, because you're not here. I will talk about 3 points first, or 2 points before answering your questions. First, about the context. Amid the pandemic COVID recovery, as well as facing an implication from the geopolitical war or tension between Ukraine and Russia, as well as the challenges from climate change that we can see become more visible today. I think we have to build our commitment for Build Back Better, meaning that we cannot go back to our old normal, but we need to build the value based on the sustainability. Pak Bambang, I think some of the speakers earlier mentioned about how to balancing. So it's actually about creating an ecosystem as well as some enablers. In the context of Indonesia, we have several ways. One is about creating a regulatory framework to support. For example, we just issued the presidential decree for accelerating the implementation of the SDGs in Indonesia. Some of the point is about the alignment on the indicators and the targets, as well as supporting the innovative financing as a source of the funding and the collaborations with non-state actors, including the businesses, philanthropy, CSOs, media, and other partners from universities. So beside the regulatory framework on the institutional setup, we also involve as many as possible the stakeholders. So we develop also the SDG centers in 26 local universities. Through these centers, we work together with youth for ambassadors of the SDGs, and also working with the businesses, for example, bring all the associations like philanthropy working for or aligned with the SDGs. With the OJK, the authority, the financial authority, we set up several policies like creating the green taxonomy, and also push more firms, the listed one, for sustainability reports. That's in terms of the enabling environment or the ecosystem. The second point, I want also talk about the transformations, that now the government preparing redesigning the economic transformations. There are 6 pillars. First, about the competitiveness in human resources. Indeed, we are engaging digitalizations in education during the COVID and so on, but still there are many children and places that actually lag behind because simply they don't have 5 or 4 or even 5G. So if the government instruct to have a long distance learning, but the effectiveness is different. So we should aware about the K shape of recovery, because some of them actually facing the risk of learning loss, and we cannot back to this period when we are talking about our future generation is not competitive enough compared to others. The second pillar is about productivities, which mainly will focus on the industrializations, particularly toward the green and the blue industrializations, modernization farming, as well as SMEs. The heart of the pillars is about the green economy. Involved in that, including low carbon development, which is, I think we saw from this event about the circular economy, as well as energy transitions, and also the blue economy, because we are a huge maritime country. The fourth is about digitalization, so it's about the enabler, how to accelerate all this process. The fifth is about the connectivities, because we are islands. And lastly, about moving the capital to the Kalimantan as a new source of growth to balance the development, particularly in the eastern part, which is still lag behind. So in these transformations, of course, we go through several steps. We align all the SDGs target. For example, 124 out of 169 indicators are aligned in our development plans nationally, as well as at the province level. And then we also incorporate all the projection and estimations in the economic growth, all the values in relate with the environment. For example, we could actually growth for up until 7%, but we decide to grow up until 2045 like 5.7%, because we want to also qualifying the environment values. Just small example of it. If you read recent news that we are now expanding our toll road in Sumatra, and at least there are 10 tunnels of 11 tunnels that we are built to expand our toll road. Some of you may know that the cost of developing the elevated toll road is much costly than the usual road. Why should we care about the elephant? The the 10 tunnel of elephants is actually they've been there years, and we just don't want to disrupt their life, their children's, and which could jeopardize the ecosystem balances. So that's only one example. Moving the capital to the Kalimantan, it's the heart of Borneo is actually main our tropical or prime forest is there. It's actually about balancing the people, planet, and the welfare, as well as peace, of course, yeah, and partnership. So how to build together not only the government but also the businesses and other stakeholders. That's really challenge. There are actually 3 challenges in our transformations. First, about how to use the technology, including the digitalization. Second, of course, we need sustainable investment or financing, because technology somehow needs that huge investment. And third is how to preparing a green transition job, because with the 4th populous country in the world, and we have some lag behind in terms of quality in education, how to really preparing these people engaging in a new jobs. It is estimated actually around 1.8 till 2.2 new job in the green jobs. That's spread all over in the EV, in the digitalizations, and in all the more sustainable businesses. But then how to really prepare the kids in Papua, the teacher to engage in distance learning, that's another challenge. Third, then I will respond to Rudolph's questions about the values. Considering all the things I mentioned earlier, I just want to add 2 more values. It's about the goodwill. I think all of us at any places, government, private, youth, and so on, showing a goodwill, the good intentions that we want to have balancing, not only busy with our own KPI and working in silo, but really use the values as a grease to accelerate all our businesses. And it really needs a goodwill, like the example that I mentioned earlier about the elephant tunnel. If we don't have a goodwill, or the government don't have a goodwill, we can just kill thousands of elephants with their families. The second value is about the credibility. So based on the goodwills, I think we need to build up the credibility that later by later we could fuse other goodwill in a real world, in a concrete way. Not only in talking, but also push all of us to work together, because we can see the goodness of working with someone or some institutions that are much more credible toward a sustainability. Thank you very much. Give it back to Rudolph.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Mimi. That was so powerful, and the values you just walked us through are so important. And I think the choice, the costly choice to build tunnels such that elephants can survive and not be disturbed is an affirmation of perhaps the most sacred of all values. But let's return to that in a moment. I thank you. I'd now like to turn to Alexandra Askandar. And if I put a little extra emphasis on your name, I have to confess it's because my youngest daughter's name is Alexandra. So I'm extremely fond. We're very privileged to have you with us today, ma'am. Thank you for being with us. Alexandra is the chair of Forum of Human Capital Indonesia and the deputy CEO of Bank Mandiri. Alexandra, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Rudolph. And please say hello to your Alexandra. Good morning, honorable speakers and facilitators in this session, Bapak Profesor Bambang Laksmono, Mr. Daniel Curici, Ms. Ikra Syai, SP 2022 Economy Task Force co-leaders and delegates, Mr. Rudolph, SV20 co-founder, fellow panelists, distinguished guests, V20 members, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, I would like to thank you all for having me as one of the panelists on today's session regarding the Economy Task Force panel discussion at V20 2022 Summit with the key theme of values at the center. Although I unfortunately could not physically attend this festive summit in Ubud Green School, Bali, I can feel the positive energy and enthusiasm from afar. Second of all, thank you so much, Pak Bambang, Mr. Daniel, Ms. Ikra, for the explanation about the economy chapter in V20 2022 communique. It was such an inspiring insight to deepen our understanding towards the importance of putting values at the center of policy making. In regard to economic sustainability and digital economy transformation, I strongly agree on the urgency of expanding digital access and promoting digital literacy in order to achieve digital inclusion. Digital disruption has been rapidly and fastly growing each day, leaving us with only two options available: to keep up with the unpredictable pace or to stay put and eventually get left behind. While it might be fortunate enough for some of us to have easy access and broad understanding towards the use of technology these days, digital divide phenomena, as mentioned in the communique, have created inequality for the less fortunate ones. In the near future, our economy will be run by and through digital technology. Therefore, if digital access and literacy discrepancies grow wider, it will undoubtedly create a negative impact on our economy. This is where values such as collaboration and agility and many more will have to play its role. Such undesirable phenomena can only be overcome if we collaborate and leave our economy-centric mindset for a while to invest in communities in order to establish a digital economy for a better future for all of us. It is very important, especially for leaders, to step back far enough from their current business to reimagine where transformative value is possible. Focusing on the digital economy, we have to contextually understand the cultural sensitivity to make sure that digital inclusion can be achieved accordingly, as one region might have different approaches compared to others. With today's e-commerce and online business trends, micro, small, medium enterprises are indeed an effective channel to establish and accelerate the digital economy. The Ministry of SOE and SOEs in Indonesia have also addressed that concern by creating hubs in various cities across Indonesia, led by the best SOEs young talents as the CEO and CFO, to connect as well as develop the potential of local micro, small, and medium enterprises. This ecosystem is also a great way to promote values as the basis of our sustainable economic growth. And as mentioned in the communique, by 2030, Indonesia will lack of 9 million digital talents. Pursuing digital inclusion in general has to be supported by qualified digital talents spread across fields and across sectors. And align with the government's focus in order to fill the needs of developing best digital talents, our educational system has to engage those young talent candidates from their educational stage with the state-of-art curriculum and facilities to make sure the desired resources are properly prepared early on and able to fill in the gap to support global sustainability in the future. Adding to that, I believe SOEs as the contributor to 1/3 of the nation's economy also have a big role and responsibility in providing these digital talents to create a prosperous and inclusive economy for Indonesia. Our goal is to develop 200,000 digital talents by 2024, mainly through internal education and training. We are aware that this is a very ambitious goal, so every leader and top management in each SOE must embody our core values, which is akhlak, in realizing our common goal. To achieve sustainability in the long run with the vast variety of stakeholders, each with different interests and concerns, of course, we need to sit down together to synchronize our perceptions with values as the universal language to unite all of the differences. We in SOEs have experienced that through our akhlak core values that have been internalized across SOE for the past 2 years. Akhlak in SOEs is a series of core values formulated based on existing values that have been embodied in each SOE's culture for a long time. These values were gathered and incubated by the Ministry of SOE, which then formalized and agreed on by all SOEs as our collective values. Since we hold the same core values, every deliberation regarding business or other concerns is always directed to be strategized and solved based on our core values. Although there is still some room for improvement, SOEs as agents of development in Indonesia have also influenced the spirit to our surrounding ecosystem, such as customers, stakeholders, and other related parties. With a similar or inspired approach, it is possible to achieve harmonization between government and corporation in a wider range nationally or even globally. Speaking of government and corporation partnership, it was also an interesting topic that was mentioned in the communique documents regarding value-based investment for sustainable startups business. Aligned with the regulator's roadmap in ESG focus, this clean tech startup investment model can be promoted as one of corporations as an investor initiative in supporting sustainability and clean energy transition. Knowing today's startups' advanced skills and competencies, we need to have standardized policy regarding requirement, monitoring mechanism, and also evaluation mechanism to make sure that the investment are properly disbursed and executed, hence reassuring the private sectors to contribute to a greater cause. In order to do that, we believe that the government has already taken the action by encouraging business leaders from all sectors to also invest their time in understanding ESG even deeper in the direction of actively taking part in sustainable economic growth. As mentioned in the communique, governments, corporations, and civil society interests are rarely aligned, and we know that there are regions where consumer demand for digital infrastructure may not be particularly profitable for corporations. Such conditions will worsen digital divide phenomena even more. Meanwhile, we cannot rely only on the government to build this digital inclusion. Both the government and corporation must work hand in hand. If I may initiate the vote with follow-up discussion, I would like to hear insight from Ms. Ikra. How do we make sure corporations adopt general principles and be willing to support digital inclusion? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. Thank you. And so with that, we now have just over 5 minutes left in the session. And Anas, it comes to you, dear sir. Pleasure to speak with you earlier to bring us home. Anas is Director of Corporate Communications, Sustainability, and Strategic Partnerships at one of the most respected organizations in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Al Turki Holding, one that we all who work in the region know very well. And it's an organization that is known to act on values and to build values into the DNA of so much of what it does. So, Anas, please tell us your experience at Al Turki Holdings. And again, we need to wrap up in about 6 minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and I would like to thank the Indonesian government for hosting the V20 as initiative started in the G20 in Saudi Arabia. And really I was extremely happy to share the values in economy with our kind panelists. So we all think about our economy, and when we think about economy, the first thing that comes in mind is how much money we will be generating, or what's our impact in terms of like the ROIs, IIR. So this is the things that we keep thinking about in our practice. Just I'll share with you something as a practice that we have in our company. The first thing in the morning, I received this message. How did you create value today? And I'll shift this question to everybody in this room. How you create value today or yesterday? Because we need to think about the value. It is not a one-time activity that we do. It is more about creating value every day. And it is a long journey aligned with your processes, and it's aligned with your business impact as well. So I'll talk about the 3 main points in my talk today. The first is we need to think about how we create value in terms of economical value. For example, when you are investing in investments, we need to think about how can we create a positive impact. We as a company, as part of our group, we have the leading construction company. As well, we have the largest ready-mix company in the kingdom. Just when we think about it is that we are helping for a better living, for a better economical factor, that our concrete can last for more than 100 years. And we keep investing in our R&D because we are looking forward that our clients, customers, they get a valuable products. And you can think about different investment that we have. For example, in the mobility segment, we have the largest EV fleets. And this is because we are aligned with the kingdom vision when we are moving to NEOM, and we are having infrastructure. It is based on electrical infrastructure and hydrogen infrastructure. We are taking a proactive move, and we are investing in a valuable manner in the EV segment. Also, when we think about values, it's not just about returns of money. You could not get returns if you don't give. And this starts from your people inside the organization. Giving your people the right resources, the right infrastructure, the right tools to leverage their experience, to take them to the next stage in terms of, for example, digital infrastructure. They can have a good digital infrastructure where they can give, analyze, think about the cooperation in different way. Also, giving is not just to your people, it is also to the community where you operate. So part of our, let's say, paradigm is we need to create value every day and to be better than last year. And we always benchmark ourselves with ourselves. So for example, what is our factors in terms of like giving to community, giving to charitable organization, building our human capital, also building the businesses. What is our role in the GDP? How many jobs we created across the kingdom? This is what drives the values into businesses. And the third aspect that I would like to emphasize on is moving from people and profit to the planet. Your environmental aspects. We are here to build the great businesses. We are not here to demolish or to have a negative impact. We try always to integrate our KPIs, the business KPIs, and how we create value in the business. And I was in a discussion with Rodolphe about how we are giving a fair bidding process for the SMEs, for the local players, so they can grow. What is our role in creating jobs through our suppliers, since we are a leading company? So this is how you think about your clients, operations, governance, and also the planet that, in terms of like environmental aspects, carbon footprint. What is your role in shifting the resources and to recycle it again? So we could not move in the business without thinking about these three aspects, which is the sustainability aspect, which is people, planet, and profit. And always remember that it is a long journey about creating value every day, and how can we build up an environment where we get profits, building the humans, and creating a positive impact to the land that we operate in. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, dear Anas. That was absolutely fantastic. I would like to thank all of you, our panelists, our speakers, the task force leads, the authors of the papers. You've inspired us. I think we all can say with confidence that it is now clear how doable it is. You see, business is showing that you can drive change through values, and you can drive value-centered growth with value at the center. Please join me in giving a warm round of applause to our panelists, and I thank you all for your kind attention. And now I pass it back to our host in Bali.
Thank you, Mr. Rudolf Lomeyer. And now we're inviting all the speakers, also panelists, to stand up who are in Bali to take a picture with the online speaker and facilitator. Okay. Silahkan berdiri. Can you please stand in the center? Everybody, big smile. Terima kasih kepada Bapak Profesor Dr. Bambang Shergi Laksmono, MSc, Bapak Daniel Kurici, Ibu Dr. Vivi Yulaswati, MSc, Bapak Anas Aljuraifani.
And also thank you for those joining online. Mr. Rudolf Lomeyer, Ibu Ikra Shaikh, Ibu Alexandra Aksander. Thank you so much for making time.
Terima kasih.
It's always a fruitful discussion.
Yes.
To talk about values and economy.
I was just talking with Kinan, I was just discussing with Kinan, if there was only like question and answer session, you know, to add to this, that would be perfect, because I believe some of us in the audience have some questions, right? Well, we have a QR code that everyone can scan. because we need you to fill in the survey form for this session. So, ladies and gentlemen, please scan this QR code and fill in the survey form. Thank you for your participation.